Welcome everyone to Professional Pioneers with Provision Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Muhammad Junaid Ismail, and as you may well know, Provision Alliance NGO has set its sights on eradicating unemployment, helping the youth discover and forge their dream careers, and propelling them into becoming the future leaders of industry that our country so desperately needs. This podcast is inspired to help aspiring professionals understand and discover the careers they may well go into. Have you ever found yourself asking, how do I become a doctor or a lawyer? How do I start a business? Where do I study? And how do I get funding? These are some of the questions we will be answering on our podcast. With our variety of guests who come from humble beginnings and have inspirational stories of how they've overcome the obstacles. And here is where they will share their advice and wisdom they've gotten along the way. Today, we have with us an extraordinary gentleman named David Luboya-Mushila. He's born and raised in Cape Town, residing in the southern suburbs, fell in love with the idea of inventions and sees himself as a dreamer. Today, he is in his final year of BCom Information Systems at UCT and is already working in the data services programming field. We really wanted to shed light on jobs like data analysis, web development, anything in tech and AI. As we know, the future is looking very, very bright for these fields. So I'd love to welcome David. It's great to have you today.
Thanks for having me, Junaid. It's good to be here.
So David, we'll start by just kind of getting to know who you are. So maybe you can introduce yourself to us.
Yeah, so I'm David Luboya-Mushila. I am, as a person, a strategic problem solver, and I'm currently working in a fast-paced world of data and commerce. But personally, I'm a creative, and I'm a person that enjoys speaking, and I'm led by my faith. When you come to know of David, my story began in Muizenberg, where I was born. I was born in a house because I was in a rush to get into this world or whatever. So my mom couldn't make it to the hospital in time. So born in a house in Muizenberg, and that same stubborn and relentless nature kind of carried on throughout my story, and grew up kind of very involved in school and sports and academics and that sort of a thing.
Okay.
And I was always intentional about opportunities from a young age, and that's kind of my character, what it's been like since then.
All right. So sounds like you had quite an interesting journey. So at what point did you realize you wanted to go into this field?
For me, I really wasn't certain until later in high school. I always had many different interests, but for me, I knew that I had three particular things that I enjoyed about work, and I looked for those three things when making a choice. Um, I knew that I loved design, I loved problem solving, and I loved entrepreneurship and creating things, and I looked for careers that kind of gave me those three things.
Okay. So
And I landed on information systems.
okay. So what were your other options? Because I'm sure a lot of students, that they're not sure exactly what they want to do, and often for applications they have to put more than one course to study. So what were your options?
So my other option was engineering, and the other one was architecture. All quite different from each other in a way. Yeah.
Okay. So what was the thing that made you choose information systems over architecture and engineering?
So for me, engineering kind of made sense. It's because my older brother did engineering. I was good at maths, but then I kind of thought about like beyond the studying and the actual work, and I thought about the way that I wanted to create value in the world of work, and I kind of realized I didn't want to do maths forever and that sort of thing, and now I wanted to do more a different type of work. And I realized just because you can do maths doesn't mean you should do a maths-based degree, you know. So that was kind of my deciding factor, and looking at the opportunities in the future, it kind of made me decide on information systems with all the opportunities that it offers once you finish. Yeah.
I like the two things you mentioned. You said just because you're good at maths doesn't mean you have to do something in maths. I think that's quite profound. And the other thing that you mentioned is looking into the future. I think a lot of us, especially the older generations, we were kind of pushed towards certain careers because they were known to be, safe careers. But looking at the way the future is going now, with the rising technology and AI, it's quite interesting to see that certain careers are being potentially being replaced in the future, and the labor market is changing and evolving. Um, so okay, so you landed on information systems, and how did you? What were the results that you needed? You obviously got information from the universities in terms of admission criteria. So from your memory, what were the criteria for information systems?
As far as I can remember, it was a while back, but required you to have, for business science degree particularly,
Yeah.
you needed about either 65% or 70% more in mathematics. With the BCom, the requirements below, that was for to be considered for the application. And I believe if you average 80% and more and got 70% and above for maths and English and a science, then you were given provisional acceptance into the university. Yeah.
Okay. Um, that's quite interesting, yeah, because you made a quite an important point there. You said, that's the criteria that you need for admission, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're guaranteed a spot. Um,
Exactly.
mm, mm. And we'll definitely delve into more of what were the other kind of criteria in terms of
Mhm.
funding and that sort of thing. Um, so, with regards to your university choice, how did you end up choosing UCT?
Yeah, so for me, coming from Westford High School, a lot of the kids there, it was an obvious choice to either go to UCT or Stellenbosch, some UWC. So that was kind of it was a it made sense from the high school that I came from, but also just looking at the opportunities that it allowed. Because UCT is a brand, like many workplaces and businesses know them and companies know them as a place that produces quality students. So for me, I wanted to give myself the best shot at in the world of work. So that meant that I applied to the university that I thought was the best at the time for my particular degree as well, because certain universities uh, better or produce better students in certain industries. So yeah.
Interesting. So what I'm gathering is that when choosing a tertiary institution, their reputation and the quality of graduates that they produce is an important factor in deciding.
Yeah, 100%. Besides, like where your friends are going and like the proximity to where you stay, you should really think about the particular degree you're doing and which university produces the best graduates for that industry. They may produce great commerce students, but it may not be the same for medicine or science. So it's something to really consider. Yeah.
Okay, and with a lot of our students don't necessarily come from, strong financial backgrounds. Just from what you know, what is it like thinking about potentially applying for bursaries, these courses? Do you take or did you take the financial aspect into consideration when applying?
Yeah, so when applying, I knew for me that I needed a bursary or scholarship because, like you said, a lot of us don't always come from financially strong backgrounds. So paying fees of 100,000 and more rands a year was not feasible.
Mm.
So when applying for university, or even before then, it was a thing of making sure that you apply for scholarships that allow you to attend these universities because there are the fees, and then it's the books, and then transport and accommodation. So it's a lot of factors and fees to consider when applying. Yeah.
Okay, and in that application process, what would you say are the most important things to have, or what puts you in a good position to get funding?
Fundamentally, they look for, depending on the scholarship, they look for your academic performance.
Mm.
That's the first thing. Seeing that you're a strong candidate academically, and that you, because that shows them evidence and a promise that you'll be able to go through the whole degree,
Mm.
and they want to take on somebody that they believe would finish the degree. Secondly, there's a lot of supplementary things they look at: your personality, your financial background, your the involvement you've had in high school,
Mm.
leadership, sports, these kinds of things all support your case as well when applying for a scholarship. Yeah.
Okay. So, is there any particular scholarship that you received? If you're comfortable with sharing that.
Yeah. So in high school, I was sponsored by Student for Better Future scholarship, and moving on to university, I applied for two. It was the scholarship and Make a Difference Leadership Foundation scholarship. I applied for both concurrently, and when I found out from the one that I received it, I discontinued my application for the others. So I was sponsored by Make a Difference Leadership Foundation. Yeah.
That's amazing. Congratulations on that. I think it's quite inspirational that at such a young age, you kind of knew where you wanted to be, and you're willing to put in the time and the effort to make that possibility a reality for yourself. Not letting your circumstances define your future. And so I must really commend you on that.
No, I appreciate it. It's a thing of really opportunities are not many, and there are a lot of people like us that are very much hardworking and have dreams but don't have the opportunity to make it a reality. So when given it, it's something you can't pass by, and you kind of have to give it your all when you have the one chance to make it.
Yeah, I agree. Just to kind of veer slightly of course here for the viewers. Myself, I also was sponsored by Students for a Better Future in high school, and they really helped us, identify what are the funding options going forward. They prepared us in terms of what are the academic, requirements, and everything related to that. And they emphasized being a well-rounded individual. And we really, from a younger age than most, we were aware of how you present yourself and how your hard work reflects through the things you are involved in. And I think it does give you this sense of, you know, um, you kind of feel like you've worked for where you are, and you appreciate the opportunity that has arisen. And I think that is a quality and a characteristic that puts us in a good position going into the future. And that is something I want to share with, as many people as possible. I think we were very lucky, not necessarily lucky, but we were blessed to be
Yeah.
to be kind of in that position to get that opportunity. Okay, so let's focus a bit more on the course itself and the career. So how did you stumble upon this course? I mean, myself and probably many of the viewers might not have heard about information systems. So how did you hear about it?
To be honest, before matric, when I was looking about trying to decide what I would study myself as well, I had no idea what information systems was. And the funny thing is, even when you're studying it, you only really figure out what it is like in your second or third year.
Mm,
Um, what I did know though is that it ticked the three boxes that I was looking for.
mm,
I did research, and I was looking for which degrees give me access or kind of allow me to or have a design aspect to it, problem solving and business. So these were the three criteria that I had personally. And then when I did my research, I saw that information systems ticked all the boxes. I knew that there was a programming aspect to it and that it focused on a broader business understanding. But particularly, I didn't know until later on in my degree. So I really just did research on what options there were. Then I stumbled upon this option.
I think it's amazing that you were able to firstly know yourself and know what you wanted. I think a lot of people, especially young students, they struggle to know what they would actually enjoy. And
Mm,
what I find with a lot of my colleagues or people in my age group who has been working for quite some time, you know, they realize a bit late that actually the thing that they're doing is not for them. And at that point,
mm,
you've already invested a lot of time and money. So a point I really wanted to get across from your story is that, it's so important for us as young, aspiring leaders of the future to really get to know ourselves and what we really want in a job, because it's so important to have that sense of purpose and that sense of enjoying what you do.
mm.
So I really think that's amazing that you knew that, and you did the due diligence to find a career, to forge a new path, because I think a lot of people don't have the privilege. A lot of us are first generation university students, so we don't have parents, grandparents, or other family members who have done these things and who can tell us exactly what to do. So again, that pioneering these experiences, I definitely would commend you on that. It's a really an amazing thing.
I really think that, like you said, knowing yourself and finding out your why is really important because it should inform every single decision that you make. Um, because we spend in our adulthood most of our time working, and if you're working a job you really don't enjoy or find no value in, and it's not something you want to be doing long term, work ends up being a soul draining experience, which is not what you want. You should enjoy some element of it. So that's why it's really important to do the introspective work before choosing a career path or something of that sort.
Okay. So now, fast forward, you part of this Make a Difference Leadership Foundation. They give you the go ahead, you get accepted into this course. First year, how was that experience jumping from high school to university?
Well, for me, it was particularly unique because I was part of the COVID matriculant year in 2020. So, matric itself and first year was quite different to what others would have experienced and will experience. Very isolated. The online schooling or university was a novel thing. It was a lot of learning on the go. And because there was a programming aspect of learning and course with information systems and not having done coding before, it meant there was quite a struggle to kind of having to teach yourself this new language, this new thing, and a lot of kids didn't make it through. But it was a good learning curve. So yeah, it was quite difficult adjusting, but we got through it, and you kind of learn quickly. You kind of have to. So yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like that problem solving nature really put you in a good position.
Yeah, it's a mixture of really just grit and pushing through it and leveraging any help you can find, may it be on the net, friends, all the students, whatever it is you can find, because you have to make it work. Yeah.
So, from your understanding now, you've gone through a couple of years of university in information systems. If you had to explain it to a 6-year-old, how would you explain it?
So information systems is quite a broad topic, but to break it down, it is the study of various tools and techniques to identify the needs of a business, and more than that, identifying the needs, you're taught skills and techniques to in the form of programming or data analysis and a broad spectrum to kind of provide value to the business. So you're given an understanding and the tools to provide the solution as well. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I think my question was a bit difficult because I asked for a 6-year-old, but probably more relevant for a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
So, what are the types of careers or jobs someone with a information systems degree can get into?
So the variety is quite broad. It goes from quite technical careers in programming or software engineering to more BA type of careers, more business analysis type of things, or consulting, where you're not doing as much technical work, but more research based and um, communication and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay. So the nice thing then about the information systems is that one, it's kind of in a sense very versatile, and it gives you the opportunity to move through different fields,
Yeah.
which I think is very handy, especially in today's day and age. With jobs being so scarce, you really want to have a skill set that allows you to do a multitude of things. So I think that's pretty cool. So as we said previously, I mean, you're one of those unicorns who are studying, but they're already in the working world. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. So for me, after first year, I kind of knew, I don't know, I had this urgency about me. Um, and I really wanted to be honest, I just wanted to start making money really early. That's my first thing. I had goals and dreams and aspirations. So from my second year, I was doing a lot of part-time jobs, coaching, tutoring, whatever
Okay.
you have it, whatever I could find. And then I realized that from my third year that those kind of jobs were cool, but they weren't serving me. They were taking away from my studies and not really progressing my career. And I started to think more long term. And then I began doing some independent learning and teaching myself things from my third year. And I stopped all the part time job things. And I did that for a while. And I did internships on my first year, really looking on LinkedIn and getting whatever I could find. And those looked like data science, practical internships, business analysis internships. None of them were paid for. Like I didn't get any stipend. It was basically giving free work and really working hard to get any sort of experience I could get. And that meant every single university holiday, I didn't have a holiday. I was always doing unpaid internships. And then it meant that by the time I was in the middle of my third year, I applied for a job that I saw on Indeed. And they saw that I had a weird amount of experience for a third year student. And had a technical capacity that was enough to do the job, and they gave me a shot at it, and they were quite happy with what they saw. And yeah, the rest is history. I've been working at the same company for about a year and a half, and I've been growing. So yeah.
Wow, that's really inspirational, man. I think, if you if you had to ask any, student nowadays, would you be willing to work for free in your holidays, with not knowing that, at some point it's going to benefit you? I mean, most people would say no. So I think it truly speaks to your character of hard work and determination. And I liked what you said when you said, you were doing these part-time jobs and your focus was money initially, but then you had
Yeah.
realized that it wasn't serving you, and you focused your energy more towards the long term, and you had that vision. And I think that's something that we as Provision Alliance really want to highlight for our students, is that, there are certain things that you perceive as important right now. And a lot of the time we ask our students, why do you want to do this career? And most of them will say financial freedom.
Hmm.
But they lack the insight to know that, money isn't everything, and it's not always going to lead you to where you need to be. So I think this
Yeah.
is your story is an amazing lesson and a testament to that. So yeah, I think your hard work paid off, and now you're probably miles ahead of people in your field. So I think that's truly amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm blessed. For me, I think what changed a lot of it was my perspective. It went from trying to get ahead with, I don't know, coaching and tutoring. Yes, I was making good money for a student, but I began really wanting to grow as a professional, and so I didn't mind working for free because my focus was on learning and being able to offer value to businesses. Because you can't really demand money if you can't give them anything in exchange. So I learned to really invest in myself, um, so that someday, like, companies will have no problem paying the price for you if they
Mm.
see the value from you. Yeah, so it was a more than just the experience. I became a lover of learning, and that's helped me so much. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so how would you compare then? Sorry, how would you compare then your experiences as a student in the fields that you're learning in, and how would that compare to the actual working world where you have to engage with colleagues, you have to do the professionalism thing, respond to emails, all of these adult kind of things. How would you say that the changes or the transition was going into that?
Yeah. So the two or three main things with doing a degree in the tech space or tech focused degree, as you know, technology changes very quickly. So the things you do in university and the things you learn, by the time you get to the industry, they've changed so much.
Hmm.
So that's the one thing. Like, you may learn to program a certain language, you get to industry, that language is not really, it's kind of outdated, but you
Hmm.
still learn the skill of learning how to program in a language, and it's not all lost or whatever. So that's the one thing. The technology is different. The things they require of you are slightly different, and university is really like it's an isolated space. In the working world, it's very, there's no guidelines on how to do things, and that's what university looks like. So a person that may have excelled in university may not excel in the real world because, like I said before, the this industry is a lot about really thinking on your 2 feet and being able to problem solve regardless of the skills you learned before. That's the one thing. A second thing, how it's quite different compared to university, is that university they tend to emphasize the hard skills like programming, like finance and mathematics. But a big part of what determines your success as a professional, I found, is the softer skills as well. Your ability to lead yourself, motivate others, communicate effectively, um, your ability to take ownership of your work and learn. Learning is a big one. I find that the employers are always willing to take a risk or a bet on the individuals that they see have the energy and the willingness to learn and make mistakes and grow. We don't That isn't really taught in university. And yeah, this is the main things I believe. Yeah.
Thank you for that. One of the things I think I'd like to highlight is, you know, what you're basically describing is that, in high school and even in university, there's this focus on, results, and this is how
Mm,
things are done, and you have to do it this correct way. And a lot of the time, there's this emphasis that there's only one way to do things.
yeah.
And a lot of students tend to focus on getting the result or getting that one way right. Whereas what you're kind of describing is that you actually just need the capacity to learn and to problem solve. And so, what people should be taking from their education is not just memorizing
Yeah.
certain formulas, but really understanding what it takes to look at a problem, identify that problem, pick it apart, and use different angles and approaches to solve that problem. Which I think this degree you've chosen has really equipped you with that ability.
Yeah, 100%.
Just to comment also on the second part, I think this is so crucial. Soft skills, dealing with people, being able to lead yourself, being able to, carry yourself in a certain way and engage people in an intentional way in which they can truly understand your expertise and communicating that so that whatever you're involved in the workspace, it produces effective outcomes. So I think that's something you definitely are encapsulating in your story.
Yeah, I really think there's a misconception of what the working world looks like. It's not university in the slightest. You really are the master of your growth in the real world. If you don't take up new challenges and show that you want to grow, you can remain in the same position for 10 years. It's those that are willing to, like you said, learn, grow, and kind of forge their own path that really grow really fast and make a change. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. In terms of your kind of journey so far, what has been the major, successes or positives you can share with us?
Major successes positives. For me, I would say, I mean, it's been great being able to taking my degree. So it's been great kind of learning and going through that journey of growing as an individual, as a professional, and learning different skills. Um, I think for me, more than the things I've learned in skills and content, it's the people that I've met along the way. It's great to get great marks or get a job or whatever the case is, but you'll learn quickly that in this world, it's really important the people you surround yourself with. So I think for me, even the opportunities that I have to have the scholarship and these kinds of things, it's from people. So I've really learned to value people my biggest positive is the people that I have around me, the opportunities that I've been able to receive. They've all been blessings, and I wouldn't be here without them and the opportunities. So yeah.
Thank you for that. You've highlighted such a crucial thing. A lot of people think, look, if I get these amazing results at school, and I just sit in my room and study, and I graduate cum laude, the world is going to open up to me. And then people enter the working world and they don't really know how to engage people. They don't know how to build meaningful relationships. And I think something you mentioned quite early on in our conversation was something called LinkedIn. And
Yeah.
it's quite an interesting digital space where, people can build relationships. And I think what you're alluding to is this idea of networking. And
Yeah.
often there's this old adage where it goes, it's not what you know, but who you know. And I think more than the concept of, cronyism or corruption, I think a lot of the time it's more about, building strong relationships so that people like get to know you and people are willing to refer you to others. They get to know your character and what you stand for and the quality of who you are, not just what you do. And I think that goes a long way, more than just any qualifications on a CV. So thank you for pointing that out for sure.
So 100%. I still think another thing for me is I really believe you can learn more from an individual than you can from any textbook, from any course that you do, and that's why I've really learned to value people because you grow so much because of the people that are around you. So that's another thing. Besides just the referring and the networking, it's just they bring value to you just by being who they are because a person is a world within themselves, and there's so many things you would not know um, that they would know. So yeah.
I love that quote. Each person is a world within themselves. Amazing. To not to be negative or focus on a negative, but What are some of the challenges you faced or obstacles you faced in your journey and you had to overcome?
For me, probably the biggest one is juggling work and studying. In second year was difficult with the different part-time jobs. The schedules just didn't align, and my academics did take a bit of a knock because of it. And it was a difficult time for me. But I believe it prepared me for the following year, where I was working full time in industry and also full time student. Doesn't mean it was easy, but I think I was better prepared. You would expect, like, when that happens for your marks to decrease, but oddly enough, I did better. It's that thing that people say, I don't know, you get more things done when you're busy or something like that. I don't know why it's true, but it wasn't easy, but I really had to learn to be really, really intentional about my time, about the things I found important. I just sacrifice a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. But I think if you believe the thing you're sacrificing for is worth it, then you'll be able to do it every single time. But yeah, it's just juggling both. It's quite difficult for me. You just don't have time to rest as much and breathe as much. So I would be in a space where I'm expected to compete with other students who've had like 10 hours more than me in a day to prepare for a test or an assignment. But you kind of have to re-strategize and rethink how you study, to relearn how to study, to be as effective and to perform with the limited amount of time. So yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I think, being in university, similar scenario to yourself where, I didn't really have a good financial background. So, if I wanted to go to these events, if I wanted to, go out with my friends on the weekend, I had to really make that money myself. So I also did some tutoring on the side, and it can be quite difficult. And even going through med school, in final year, you basically expected to work within the hospital system, but you still have to, study your courses and such. And so it is quite a difficult thing, and you do have to sacrifice quite a bit. But coming to your other point, I remember watching a TED Talk actually where they did a study on university students, and they found that, logically you'd think that those who had more time to study would be achieving better. But you find that those who had extracurriculars or had a part-time job, they were actually more efficient in their time management. And so they were more, as you said, more intentional about when they study, how they study. And that kind of pressure forces you to find ways to learn faster and better, and you problem solve. And you also, even within that process of learning how to learn, you learn how to problem solve. And so I think it's, especially nowadays, a lot of the students we work with, they complain that, they procrastinate, and they say things like I'm lazy. But I think it's just, a combination of poor time management and having too much time to do things you enjoy, but then you end up on social media most of the time, those sorts of things that don't really add value to your life. Whereas when you have limited time, you really have to think about the things you're investing your time in. And so I think that's an amazing lesson for our listeners and our viewers to think about the time that they have in the day. Everyone has 24 hours. So why is someone like you able to work and study and do so well, as opposed to someone who is not doing any of those things? And it's all about your intention and about strategizing and planning your time. So thank you for that. One last thing before we go. How would you advise someone that may be interested in going into, information systems, or the career or the job that you are currently in?
What I will say is that it's growing as a career exponentially. You'll see every single year the class sizes are increasing by percentage of 30% or more. It's really growing because people are seeing the value in working in the tech space and just having such a degree under your belt when going to work. So one thing I will say, or two things that are really important, I would say are number one, don't wait until you graduate to get work experience. Find any experience you can get beforehand. It really sets you apart. When I speak to business owners and such, they really tell you that having experience can, in some cases, count even more than having an honors degree, because that experience is really it's something that cannot be replaced with extra studying. There's something about knowing how the working world works and what's expected of you that sets you apart from other students. That's number one. Number two is to really start adapting an attitude of continuous learning. Even seasoned professionals today in the industry still have to go back and do their own learning because tech changes so quickly. And again, it'll set you apart because if you graduate and you know more things compared to your peers, more languages to code in or different models or that sort of a thing, it sets you apart again. And the beautiful thing about information systems is that it empowers you. And a lot of graduates end up starting their own businesses and that sort of thing because they have skills to do all of those things. So, number one, what was it now? Number one was get as much experience as you can early on, and number two is learn. Yeah.
All right, David. Thank you so much for your amazing insights. I think so many people are going to benefit from this conversation. So yeah, any closing remarks you want to make before we go?
Yeah. To anybody listening to the podcast, a big we really want people to get and a thing we really want them to understand is that we want people to envision themselves outside of their current situation. You really have and you really are capable to reach your dreams and achieve the things that you want. And we are testament to that. We couldn't imagine being where we are today 10 years ago. And things can really change in a short amount of time if you really want it. So, yeah, it's important to dream and to be intentional about the things that you want. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for those inspirational words. There you have it, everyone. David pulling through with some amazing wisdom, and I think to wrap this up, I think what really this conversation brings out is that there's a big difference between knowledge and wisdom. And wisdom is really talks or speaks to, knowledge applied or experience. So definitely a great take-home message. Thank you for watching. Please do like and subscribe and share with all your friends and family. Also, check us out on our social medias via Provision NGO. Until next time.